Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mom's Writers Club. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we are going to talk about our awesome writing retreat we went on last weekend because we cannot wait to tell you all about it. We went down to the Hood Canal and stayed at a house right on the Puget Sound, and it was gorgeous. And it was myself and Sarah and our friend Evie.
And it was totally awesome. And we want to tell you all about it and how to organize your own sort of DIY writing retreat. It was so worth doing and worked so well. And we're just
Yeah,
really excited about it.
it was great for writing, but it was also great as a mom. For me, anyway, with a 3-year-old, almost a 3.5-year-old, it was the first time between having a young child and COVID that I had gotten away ever. We'd never spent a night apart. So having a little time where I was responsible for no other human being other than myself was awesome.
And that was huge for me too, being the mother of two lovely but dramatic teenagers and just everybody being piled into the house. They have all kinds of issues and drama and then you have your partner and everybody and after a while you're like, ah, and just getting away to where you are responsible for only yourself is huge. Let's talk about how did we do this? How do you do this? If you're like, I want to organize my own writing retreat, what do I do?
Well, first you talk about it and then you talk some more and then someone in your group. Well, okay, so there were like three of us, right? And I think one day Sarah came to the conclusion that like if I don't just like plan on coming out to see you guys, that is never going to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
she,
so rule number 1 is you just
yeah,
do
you
it.
actually just
Whatever
plan
way,
it.
like, yeah, don't like be perfectionist about it. Don't wait for the perfect time. Just do it.
Yeah,
Like if
there
this
won't be
sounds
the
like
perfect
something you
time.
want to do, go for it. Just make it happen and learn as you go. That being
Yeah.
said, we're gonna kind of share some of the stuff that worked for us.
So the first thing I would recommend doing is figure out who's going, right? So we knew
Right.
there
So
were three
this
of us.
so this sort of maybe is a good question for, do you do
Uh-huh.
this by yourself or do you do this with other people?
I know that for me, I loved having other people, but you've done a couple by yourself, haven't you? What do you
Yeah.
think people should think about?
I sort of think that that's a little bit of a gut level decision. I did one by myself. I spent 4 days in DC in this like little tiny Airbnb hotel, old fashioned thing. And I basically got takeout and drank coffee and wrote for 4 days. And it was heaven. I just lived in this little room. That sort of took care of similar but different needs than being with other people. But I just have, the couple times I've done this, I have just gotten to the point where I really feel like I just need to get away and be by myself with my work, with the inside of my head, to just not be responsible for other people and have some time with my thoughts. It's good to do by yourself, A, if you want to, and B, if you don't have friends to do it with. It's great to go with friends, but if you don't know people who you think would be appropriate for this kind of thing, like it's also really great to do by yourself.
Yeah, you could also think about kind of where you are in the process. I was
Hmm.
revising for this retreat,
Yeah.
so it was really nice to have people around because when I revise, I take a lot of breaks because I find it a
Mm-hmm.
bit tedious.
Yeah.
Whereas with drafting, I think I would do better with a retreat by myself. But
That's a good
so
idea.
it was great for me to be in a small community. And by the way, the three of us critique for each other. So
Right.
we all read each
So,
other's work. So it was a
right.
little bit more of like an intimate level and like it was great because with revising I could like voice a concern and get immediate feedback. But it's nice to go with other
Right. Like
people
I've
too.
read the book that Jess is
Yeah.
revising. So she could be like, oh, wait a minute. What do you think if I change this? Blah, blah, blah. So it was like really
Yeah.
instant feedback for her, which was
Yeah.
great.
Well, and it was just fun because it was like this little house of writers and it just has its own energy and we did a lot of writing but then like at night we also drank wine and had dinner together and it was really wonderful to be with others for those parts. One potential downfall of going with other people is if people are being too social and you're trying to get work done. Like there was
Right.
definitely a moment where where Sarah needed to like work on stuff and we wouldn't stop talking about stuff. So she started to leave the room, which I've done the same thing. We're like, no, no, come back.
And it was cool.
Um,
It was cool because we had like a
yeah,
downstairs in this house.
yeah,
And I knew, okay, there's this other space I can go to if they want to have a chat. I was not like been out of shape at all.
yeah.
It
No,
was
you
very
were
sweet
totally
because
nice
then
about
they were like, no, we want you to stay. We'll shut up.
if you do it with other people. I would recommend getting somewhere that has some space so that people can sit in the kitchen and chat while you go write in a different
Yeah.
room. Yeah, I also really liked having some outdoor space to
Hmm.
like wander around. We had a great porch where we could go sit and stare at the water. There was like a little yard with a little trail in it.
Yeah, I mean that's also the nice thing about going with other people is that you have a little more, you may have a little more flexibility with what kind of a place you get. Like I, for
That's true.
one, wouldn't be comfortable being in a really isolated place by myself, which is why I've done the two times I've sort of gone off by myself has been in cities. Some people may be the other way around, but if you're with other people, it kind of like A, there's probably more money because you're sort of pooling your resources, and B, you can get a bigger place.
Yeah, and we were not super isolated, but
Hmm.
we weren't like
We
in
were
a
on the
giant.
water. Being on the water
Yeah.
was really awesome.
I would highly recommend somewhere that you can like see mountains or water or
Yeah, like
something that you can like.
some natural environment. I found it really restful to go out on that porch and look at the water. And there was a lot of rain. This was like Seattle area in October, but it was perfect. I mean, that's writing weather for me. So I was pretty psyched. And they had like a covered part of the porch where you could just go out and like watch the clouds and like unhook the analytical mind a little bit.
Every morning I wake up really early. So I would sleep in till like 5:30 and I would get up and go listen to the rain in the dark by myself. I actually posted on Instagram like a little 10-second clip of it. And it was like the best thing because usually I have to like rush to my desk to start writing because I only have until when my daughter wakes up. And
Right.
just like not having your daily routine and
Yes.
obligations, so
Even
fucking
having
fantastic.
even having 2 days of unstructured time was amazing. We didn't sit down and talk out any sort of ground rules or anything like that. We kind of were really winging it. I think that you and me and Evie are similar people, and we already know each other pretty well.
Yeah.
So I think we didn't feel the need to set any sort of rules or expectations or anything. But I
Hmm.
think, I was thinking like if I didn't know you guys as well, and if you didn't know each other, you and Evie didn't know each other as well, then it might be worth having a conversation about maybe when social time starts, or what the signal is, like the like don't bother me signal, because I think
I
people,
totally
and
agree.
maybe especially women and maybe especially moms, are kind of hesitant to be rude to one another or to seem rude and be like, hey, leave me alone, I'm writing. Some of
Yeah.
us are not worried about that, but for those of you who are, like, this is what it's all about, is protecting that time and like having that space in your head. And if it's helpful to put some structure around it.
Or even like if it's just a bigger group, like if we had 6 people, we might want to be like, and I hate to even call them ground rules because everything's flexible,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
definitely like making sure that everybody is able to do what they need to do and that, you never feel trapped in a conversation or that you can't focus because everybody else is talking. But again, we all had our own room, which I think was important for us. We're all pretty introverted, so that might not apply to everyone, but I loved having my own space when I
yeah,
went to bed.
yeah.
But then we also had a large basement area in the house where like there were 2 rooms other than the bedroom down there. And then also outdoor space so people could really spread out if needed. But we actually spent most of our time in the same room writing together, which was
Yeah,
pretty
that
cool.
sort of
I didn't
surprised me.
expect
Like,
that.
I actually really liked being in this big, it was sort of an open, like, living room, dining room area with a fireplace. It was actually really nice to just all be in that room together, quiet. Like, we had our earbuds in a lot of the time, all just working. And,
Yeah.
we did that for several hours at a time. And there was something like writing is so solitary, that there was something companionable about that.
Yeah.
That was really productive, like it made it
Yeah.
more like I can keep going and I don't, or I can take this risk or, you know?
So we all were like, everybody do whatever you want to do your own thing. And Sarah and I, both of the like full days, found that we kind of needed to get out of the house at some point.
Mm-hmm. I got a little
So
restless.
yeah, so we went like on a drive and went to the store and went on little walks. And I personally, for me, it's important to do a retreat somewhere that you can kind of get out. And if you're in the middle of nowhere, maybe that's a walk outside, but it
Mm-hmm.
was also nice to go into town and grab coffee. So I would also say like think about if you want to be able to do that with wherever your location is.
Yeah.
But also be okay doing that. I know for me, if I try to force myself to sit inside, I get
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, there's that.
overwhelmed and
Yeah, yeah. If you go into it thinking like this is my chance, this is my retreat. I must be productive and I must work 100% of the time. It sort of defeats the purpose a little bit, because
yeah,
I think one of the wonderful things about doing this, and doing it by myself also, has been just that opportunity to like get some space in my head. Like getting that space in my head is sometimes the only thing that will solve certain writing problems,
yeah,
Like if I have an issue, like some things you just can't like bear down on them until they're fixed. Some things you actually have to really step back and just give them some space.
yeah.
I could definitely have used another day.
We were discussing what the perfect amount of time would be. And originally we were going to do 2 nights. So we were going to get down there Friday and leave Sunday,
Sunday.
because the issue was that my husband had my daughter but had to work on Monday.
Yeah.
So he ended up bringing her to us so we could stay a third night. So we got like Friday evening, which involved no work at all. It involved wine and tarot cards and lots of good
Bonding and
conversation.
yeah.
Yeah, which was wonderful. But then we had all day Saturday and all day Sunday. So I'm so glad we booked a third night.
Yes.
And,
Me
I just
too.
had my daughter come stay with us and she loved it. And, she had like a girls' night and
And
it
she
was
didn't
great.
even
But
get to us until like 5 or 6 in the
yeah,
afternoon,
yeah. So we
So
still
we
had
really
like the
had
whole day. I would say at least 3 nights if you can swing it.
4 would be good. I do think 5 nights would be best. That would be kind of awesome. You could really
Yeah.
get a lot done.
Yeah, you really could. I was so sad. I was revising and not drafting during this time. I
Yeah.
was like thinking of all the words I could have written, but
Yeah.
revising was really good too. I got as much done in 2 full days of working on it that I think I would have in like a week and a half with my
Yeah.
little like before my daughter wakes up and during the nap.
Yeah. And I finally broke. Well, so it's funny. Like, I sort of broke through a not a stuck point, but like a bit of a stopping point on the draft that I'm working on. And then I
Mm-hmm.
wrote a bunch of stuff. And then when I went down to Portland and I was by myself for a couple of days, then I had this like realization about something that needed to happen in my work in progress. Like it's
And I am so excited to read it.
basically it was like a like big structural change where I was like, oh, I really need to do this, don't I? So I went to a writer's residency one time and I spent a whole week by myself in this little cabin and it was absolutely amazing. And I spent 5 of my 6 days there working on a novel that has never gone anywhere. That I eventually stalled out at about 30,000 words. But on the very last day, I was so warmed up and I was so relaxed and I was so like in the process that I sat down and in like 5 hours I knocked out the short story which became my first publication in a really good literary magazine. Like I just wrote this really good short story. And I guess I'm telling this story to say that like you don't have to have an agenda about accomplishment and productivity for a thing like this. This is part of you being a writer, that you don't have to go into it feeling like I am going to accomplish this and that and the other thing. And if you come out of it with like, a whole bunch of words that you wind up scrapping, like I wouldn't look back on that and be like, oh, that was a waste of time.
Well, yeah, because you probably were going to have to write those words either way. You just got to do it in a
In this beautiful
condensed time
place. Yeah, in a
span.
condensed
Yeah.
time span, exactly. I mean, it's almost like whatever you do on a writing retreat, you would do anyway. You only do it much faster because you have way more time.
I also really liked that. So we did cook a little bit, but we
Mm-hmm.
also had a lot of easy to eat pre-made foods. Evie
Mm-hmm.
grabbed some like pre-prepared things and we had like lots of fruit and bread and cheese and we didn't have to spend a lot of time cooking, which was really nice. We ordered pizza one night. I made salmon one night. Like we kind of
And since I came on this cross country flight, they completely took care of the
yeah.
food, which was amazing. I just basically landed and they were like, here's all the food and all the wine and it's all taken care of.
We're all nurses, so like we were all vaccinated and we also all did COVID tests beforehand, which doesn't actually have to do with us being nurses, but we're just very aware of it as nurses, I guess. And at first we weren't planning on doing COVID tests because we're all vaccinated, but people who have been vaccinated can still get it. And my daughter was going to be there. So for us, I think it was a greater peace of mind to just get tested
Yeah,
beforehand,
we were
because then,
also we were also planning it kind of at the height of the Delta variant
yeah,
outbreaks.
yeah. So now it's
Um,
like
and we were
down a little.
feeling, everybody was feeling more vulnerable then, but it really was very nice peace of mind.
Even with us all being vaccinated, I would not have felt that comfortable had we not also been tested. So
Yeah.
I would recommend just doing it for everybody's peace of mind. Full disclosure, I have two favorite moments, but I want to know what some of your
Oh,
favorite moments were.
I don't know. You have to tell you do
Okay.
yours first.
So my first favorite moment was the first night I got there. Sarah and Evie were already there, but I like showed up and there was like a spread of food on the table when I walked in. Everybody was drinking wine already. I immediately got my wine glass and the sunset was just beautiful. And it was like there was this charge to the air because the three of us had finally gathered in person. It was my first time ever meeting Sarah, even though we've been friends online for like a year and a half now and done like so much together and talked so much. And it was just like the most special fucking moment to like finally meet everyone. And this like warm yellow light was coming in from the Puget Sound where the sun was setting and we had wine. And it was just like the promise of this whole weekend together. And it just made me really happy. Your turn. No pressure. Okay, I'll do my second one while you're still thinking.
You do your, because I just love the whole thing. I'm trying to think moments. Yeah.
The last morning there, I woke up and I left my daughter in bed and came upstairs, and Sarah got up soon after. And
yeah, that's my favorite too.
And I was drinking wine, and I was not drinking.
Drinking coffee in the morning.
And it's like it's totally dark out because it like doesn't get light out till 8 a.m. in October in Washington. And it was raining outside and we had the door cracked, even though it was like fucking freezing. And we're drinking coffee and Sarah comes up and I like wait for her to pour her coffee and she goes out and like spends some time by herself, like watching the Puget Sound in the rain. And I'm like, it's been about 10 minutes. She should be awake by now. So I like walk out with my coffee and I'm like, are you awake now? Yeah. And she's like, yes. And I was like, great, let's talk about my book. Because she had just finished.
I had finished it the night before. Like I was reading it and commented, and literally at like 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night, because I stay up late. Yeah. I had finished her book and I had texted her. I had texted her done. I thought it was hilarious. There were times when we like texted each other within the house or even within the living room. We're all like,
well, it's less disturbing.
Yeah, it's like, invitation,
like a nudge without like
rather than a demand. Yeah, anyway. No, it was so funny. So she knew I had finished her book and she was like, okay, so you finished my book. Are you ready? It was great. And then we sat on this really comfy couch and we like in our pajamas with our little blankets and our coffee and the nearly dark morning and like talked all about her book and all that. And she got her feedback in real time in person, which is so nice. So among my favorite moments, I had many favorite moments, and that was one of them, curled up on that couch talking about your book. I loved waking up in the morning and just this particular location, waking up in the morning when it was dim and raining and there's the water, there's this big, it's a canal, but it's actually like this rather large body of water. When I think canal, I think this little bitty like
it's like part of the Puget Sound, so it's huge.
Yeah. Just like this dim, quiet house and the rain and the water and the clouds, just like all the edges of everything were softened off, and I could just like have my coffee and take my time, and I didn't have to jump into anything. And I loved going out on that deck under that little cover with my coffee like this and my little fuzzy sweater and, and just watch the rain on the water and just do that for a few minutes before even getting into anything, even deciding what I'm going to do that day, Yeah. Like that's so rare, especially as a mom.
It was magical. Like, okay, I know we have cursing on this show.
Yep.
But I don't curse a lot. That's usually Sarah's thing. It was just fucking amazing. Like, it was great.
Who was it on Twitter who said that cursing is a sign of intelligence?
Oh, lots of people have said it, but it was like part of some study. It was part of a study, and they were like, well, use profanity is We're all fucking geniuses. Is basically what it comes down to, especially Sarah.
I was like that, that's very validating.
So we posted our ask for questions kind of late, like as we were starting to record. So we only got a couple. Jill asked content/scheduling, how much structure is too much? I think it really depends on who it is. We had almost no structure and we just kind of like took to writing most of the day with taking some breaks and then relaxing together in the evening and not,
Yeah.
we didn't really work at night much. We kind of just had dinner and wine together and talked. And
Yeah, I would work a little bit after everybody, was going to bed because
yeah.
I just am a late night person. I don't know. So if I were going into a writing retreat with people that I didn't know, I think my concerns would be around interruption, kind of expectations about social time. And I think you could have some structure around that. You could also just have a conversation about it ahead of time.
So I liked that I didn't have to be in my bedroom the whole time whenever I wanted to write.
Yeah.
I liked that I could be in the kitchen or because I work in my office all the time, which is great, right? But like
Right.
it's kind of nice to like be able to move around, or I would want to be able to be like in the shared areas without necessarily being interrupted all the time. Oh, you know what? One thing I would worry about, I go to bed early, like 9 usually, and I stayed up a little later with this, but like that the house would be quiet enough that I could sleep at that time.
I know I kind of woke Jess up by walking around. This house was a little like creaky,
yeah.
and I was sort of like walking around at like 10:30 or 11. And
Well, but we just had a conversation. I came up
Yeah.
and said, I'm trying to sleep, and you're probably not stomping around, but it sounds like
Yeah.
you're stomping around.
Yeah. She didn't even say that. She was way nicer about it than she is even representing.
I felt
right
like
now.
I was not nice because I was so sleepy. I was like, are you walking around up there?
No, she was fine. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So being able to express what you want, it's easy for some of us. It's harder for others. I was sort of thinking, wow, if there are a bunch of people that, maybe you could like designate a social space, like if you feel like you need to get away from your writing and just talk to somebody or talk on the phone or whatever, you could designate either a space in the house or a space outside. You could also designate kind of like social times, all in the interest of like keeping that common area for writing, like you said, so you don't have to be holed up in your room. And usually because the common area of rental houses is usually nicer than the bedrooms.
Yeah,
it's like
that's true.
You want to be out there looking at the water and the fire and stuff,
Let me see what else we have here. Belinda says, I'd love to hear about what stage of a project you think a retreat is most helpful for, or what parts of the story you worked on and how that fit into the retreat.
Great question. What do you think?
I finished my rough draft a few weeks before the retreat, and then I realized I wouldn't have edits back from my editor before the retreat, and I had like a full day of, oh shit, like what am I gonna work on?
Like, so I'm not working on anything right now.
Yeah, I know. I was like, of course, like I finally can have a fucking writing retreat and I have nothing to work on. So I ended up doing some revisions on the book I finished, and that was fine. I do think I would have found it really valuable for drafting, or if I had like actual editorial notes back, so I was a little more focused, because as it was, I was kind of reading through, like kind of doing my own revising, which is great, right? It's a part of the process that you have to do, but it felt a little bit less focused because I didn't have like something specific. It was just like, oh, I need to reread this whole book and like make small revisions.
But you would have needed to do that anyway.
No, I know, but
but I agree.
I think
it's like
that's the sort of thing though that I don't need deep focus for.
Yes.
Whereas I need deep focus for drafting, and
Yeah.
I often have a hard time getting that at home. So I would say for me, I think I would have preferred to do drafting, or if I had like deeper revisions, like if I had
a first pass of editing
with either my agent or my editor's notes, because those are usually more like I'm actually rewriting scenes, or instead of like, oh, this word, I don't know, whatever my edits look like, which weren't super deep this time.
I think kind of ideally I would get to take a retreat when I was working on a first draft or working on like developmental edits. However, I really think for me, the perfect time for a writing retreat is when I just need to get the fuck away. There are times when I get too wound up in my head about whatever's going on in life, and I just need some time to myself. And over the years, I've recognized kind of when I'm starting to feel like that, like I have issues with anxiety and depression. And it's a little cyclical, it's not necessarily seasonal, but I get to this point where I'm just like really restless and anxious, and I just really need some time to myself. And
Yeah.
that's the perfect time for a writing retreat wherever I am in a project,
Yeah.
because then once I get that time to myself, then I come home and I'm able to be productive again
Yeah.
with whatever part of a project I'm in.
You don't always know what part of your book you will be working on by that time, unless you can be like, oh, it's Wednesday and I'm going to go on a retreat this weekend, which some people can do if they have family around, but just
Yeah,
plan it.
just do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Don't be like, this is going to be like, I'm only going to do one writing retreat ever in my whole life and this is it and it's got to be perfect. Kind of think of this as something you might do again a few times in your life. It does cost money. It's got to have time.
It does cost money, but it's not that expensive. If you're renting a place and you're sharing it between 3 or 4 or 5 people and you're all contributing to food and you're not doing anything like we did not get the nicest Airbnb.
No.
Like it was nice, but it was an older house, but it had like a great view and it was perfect
Yeah.
for it. It was actually kind of nice that it wasn't
It
the
was a little
perfect house.
scruffy. It was like a little
Yeah, and it
scruffy
was
arty
awesome.
house. Yeah.
It was like the Pacific
Exactly.
Northwest writing
Yep.
retreat place. It definitely could have been a lot more expensive. So just keep in mind that, you don't
Yeah.
have to have the nicest place. You don't have to have the place with the perfect view, because maybe you can walk to the perfect view. I'm going to make sure we don't have any
Okay.
other questions. Megan says, I want to know everything. This is definitely something I want to do in the future. And Nikki replies, me too.
So, one more thing I would say is that, and this is coming from now having teenagers and having gone through the toddler years, your family will be fine.
They will. It was my
They
husband's
will
first
be
time
fine.
one-on-one with my daughter, who's 3, and they actually ended up having a fabulous weekend.
They
They
will
like
have a great time.
yeah, they did like daddy daughter time and like bonded and like played, and he took her on a couple adventures. Like it ended up actually being like a really positive thing for them. And I think,
That's so awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's comfortable taking care of my daughter, but like he also works a lot. And last year he was working 80 hours a week. So it was the first time since COVID started that he was really in that position to be one on one with her for
Yeah.
an extended period of time. And I think they're closer because of it. And I got a
That's
break.
so.
Keep in mind it might actually be a really good thing.
It's easy to get into this thinking if you're like the primary caretaker of children, to think like, oh my God, is so and so going to be able to handle it? Whoever that is, your partner, your mother, are they going to be able to handle it? And what will happen if this happens? And what will happen if that happens? And I'm going to have to tell her about this and that and the other thing. I think there is something powerful in kind of letting go of that and trusting that it's healthy for your kids to have close relationships with other people. And it's healthy for your kids to know that that mom can go away and everything will be fine.
I think for some people you'll have to kind of give yourself permission, and I'm going to
Yes,
encourage you not to spend a lot
totally.
of time worrying or texting or checking your phone.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you're not there anymore. Your job is to do this writing retreat and get some time to yourself. So, though it
Yeah.
might be difficult, let
Yeah, it
them
was
do their
difficult. At
thing.
one point, I think I
You
talked to
do your
my
thing.
husband and like something was happening. There was some conflict in the family and he told me about it and it was not
Yeah.
the end of the world, but like I absorbed that conflict and
Mm-hmm.
I got really stressed for a little while. And of course, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm 3,000 miles away. And I have total faith that, he can handle it and they'll be fine. But I still just kind of absorbed all that stress.
For that reason, like I tried to limit how much I texted. I wanted to be present
Yeah.
and at the retreat and not be on social media a bunch or texting a
Yeah.
bunch or
And honestly, like once we got to that house and we got going, like that's all I wanted to do. Like I didn't
yeah.
feel any sense of conflict about where my attention was.
Is there anything you would do differently next time?
That's a good question. Stay longer.
Yeah, me too. The only thing I would have changed would be to be somewhere that like maybe connected to trails, like a
Mm-hmm.
trail system. But
Yeah.
that's just me. Like I think a lot of people would be fine without that. It's something to keep in mind though, if you like to hike or go on walks or run or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
Um,
would have brought my own coffee making system because I
I
won't
brought
cover their
a
coffee
coffee
maker.
press.
Was that you did?
I
Oh,
brought a
you brought a
coffee.
French press?
I brought a French press just in
I
case they
don't
didn't
like
have a
French
good coffee
press.
maker.
Yeah. Sorry.
You picky.
I know I am picky, but like coffee is important. Like those of
No,
us
it
who,
is.
like you get used to your way of making coffee. And I was like, I mean, the coffee was okay, but I did not love their coffee maker.
I mean, otherwise, I think it was really great. Like, I wouldn't change a thing. I was trying to think if we needed more wine, but I think we actually were fine.
I think we were.
Okay, those are all of our questions. But if anybody has any other questions, feel free to drop it in the comments and we'll answer. Well, thanks for joining us as we talk a little bit about our writing retreat. It was such a fun experience and I can't wait to do it again. Please give us a like and a subscribe. You can find us on Twitter where we do our every other Wednesday chats. I'm at author Jess Payne.
And I am at Sarah Reed Author.
And we will talk to you next time. Bye.
See you later.